Hello everyone, I'm Kris. So I did a couple short videos today. Notice the shirt, same as the second short where I introduced Queen, my tortoise. And this was a video I had in mind that I wanted to do, and I know that some of you aren't going to watch because it's not something that interests you, because I have only 11% of my audience is in the US. Everyone else is UK and Indonesia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia. And I get it that this type of stuff may not interest you because you don't care about it. And I get it, trust me. But I ask you to watch it, and I've asked earlier. I ask you to watch because things that you send me that I didn't know about, I watch, and I find them interesting. And I'm hoping that I can do the same for you on things that I've experienced. I've been to Gettysburg. It is a very sad place. It's very somber. Of course, I also went there when it was cloud cover. That doesn't help. After the video, I'm going to show a couple pictures, not necessarily of the experience there, the battlefield itself, but like General George Pickett. I have a picture of his grave. He'll come in to play on day 3. But you share with me on things that you find interesting, so I'm hoping that I can share with you on things that I find interesting. Now granted, I kind of know about this, but this is something that I've wanted to cover because I am a fan of history, a lot of American history, presidents, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to get into this and see how it is. If you're a fan of battles, you'll like this. If you're a fan of carnage, you'll like this. If you are a fan of just military strategy, you'll like it. If you don't, you won't. And don't watch these videos. But let's just go ahead and get into it and see how it goes. American Battlefield Trust, by the way, sorry, side note, they do tours of certain battlefields, Shiloh, Gettysburg, and stuff like that. And they have a camera attached to the car, and then a camera showing the person. They'll drive through the battlefields, and they'll show you. They'll stop. They'll talk about such and such battle happened here. And this is a great site. Preserve, educate, inspire. It's actually something that kind of helped trigger me in my desire to look at American history and stuff like that. So we all need that spark. Hopefully this, I'm not saying this will spark you, but maybe things like this will interest you to look at battles that or battlefields that happened in your country. Whatever. Before I get started, I apologize. Gettysburg is widely considered the bloodiest 3-day battle in all of the American Civil War. 60,000 casualties for both sides. It was nasty. And it is a massive battlefield. On day 3, you're going to hear about Pickett's Charge. Pickett's Charge covers a distance of a mile, going at a slight incline uphill with vastly no trees. Vastly no trees? Did I say that right? With almost no trees, no real cover, and you have a Union force holding back their cannon fire because they filled it with like the little, not the pellets, but like the buckshot. And there's battles all over, but Gettysburg is I don't even have a word for it. It's how terrible it was.
June 1863. 200,000 are dead, and the Civil War is barely half over. Now, General Robert E. Lee aims to move the war from Virginia and win a major battle in the North. He hopes to stoke the fire of a growing peace movement his 75,000-man Army of Northern Virginia moved swiftly into south-central Pennsylvania. Union General George Gordon Meade and his 95,000-strong Army of the Potomac moves toward Lee. Lee concentrates his army where 10 roads converge. Gettysburg. Lee's move north will spark the largest battle in American history. It will last for 3 days. The battle starts west of Gettysburg. Union General John Buford's cavalrymen shoot at lead elements of Confederate General Henry Heath's division before falling back as Heath advances. Buford holds near Gettysburg until General John Reynolds' First Corps arrives. Infantry against infantry, fighting intensifies on both sides of the Chambersburg Pike. As the highest-ranking Union officer on the field, Major General John Reynolds escalates the battle as he desperately tries to support Buford. While ordering a Wisconsin regiment forward, he is shot in the back of the neck and killed, just as the battle begins to escalate. Confederate General Robert Rhodes's division arrives on Oak Hill. Though his division is twice the size of his opponent, Rhodes's initial attacks are poorly coordinated and repulsed. Then, General Jubal Early's division arrives from the northeast. Despite Union reinforcements, Rhodes and Early manage to break their right flank. Yankees are fighting a losing battle on the left, too. After a savage firefight in Herbst Woods, they fall back to Seminary Ridge. Cannons and small arms blast the attacking rebels, reinforced by Dorsey Pender's division. But numbers come to bear, and the Union line collapses. Some escape via an unfinished railroad bed.
The whole thing about this entire Gettysburg battle, both armies showed up knowing that this was a critical junction. Yet no one wanted to fight. They were all waiting to just kind of secure an area and hope that the others left. And so when the first shots kind of happened, and then the battles kind of continued, when Lee showed up, Lee was like, well, this is where the fight's happening. And everyone was like, well, no, this isn't a good, we're not in a good ground. We're not in a good area. And he's like, we have more people. We have them at an advantage. And the Union supply line for reinforcements was not cut off. So they just kept shipping them in. And like this entire battle, both sides for the initial day one, neither side really expected the battle like they thought, pop off a few shots and they're gonna run and then we'll just take the area. As much as everyone wanted this, no one really expected that it was gonna happen the way it did.
Others are trapped in Gettysburg streets. The defeated Yankees reform on Cemetery Hill, where General Howard has left a brigade and an array of cannons. The Confederates probe, but do not attack. It was one of the bloodiest days of the war, but the worst was yet to come. By the afternoon, the Confederates have wrapped around the Union position, which now resembles a giant fishhook. But the Federals occupy the high ground, and General Meade's interior lines will allow him to easily reinforce threatened sectors. afternoon, Union General Dan Sickles moves his 3rd Corps to the Peach Orchard and the Emmitsburg Road, where he thought he could better use his artillery. But this creates a lengthy bulge in the Union line, and Sickles lacks the men to defend it. General Meade is forced to send his entire 5th Corps and parts of others to reinforce Sickles, opening gaps in his center and on his right. General Lee orders Longstreet to make the main attack upon the Union left. General Hill is to threaten the center, and General Ewell is to assault the Union right. Longstreet's divisions under John Bell Hood and Lafayette McLaws line up on Seminary Ridge, along with Richard Anderson's division of Hill's Corps, ready to make the assault. It is one of the hottest days of the year. Advancing under a hail of fire, Hood's brigades commingle and split apart, some slamming the 3rd Corps troops at Devil's Den, while others assault Little Round Top, where just arrived 5th Corps soldiers await them. Both sides send in reinforcements. Control of Devil's Den changes hands 3 times. Alabama and Texas soldiers charge Little Round Top again and again, but fall back. At last, a bayonet charge by Maine troops sends the exhausted attackers back for good.
I believe that bayonet charge was done by the Union side by, is it Chamberlain? And if you've never been Devil's Den and Little Round Top, they're very close. And the spot between where Devil's Den is and Little Round Top, there's actually a place you can park and you can walk up on both sides. And there's a spot in between where you can park, which they called the killing field. I'll let you guess what happened there.
The Union's extreme left flank is secure. Meade scrambles reinforcements from the 2nd and 5th Corps to support Sickles. As McLaws' Confederate division enters the fray, the action shifts toward the Peach Orchard, which falls quickly. The fight for the wheat field nearby is less decisive, changing hands 6 times in some of the battle's bloodiest combat. Hood and McLaws' men push on toward Cemetery Ridge, joined by part of Anderson's division. There, troops that vacated to reinforce Sickles have left a half-mile gap near the Union center. The Union Army can be cut in 2, but reinforcements via interior lines save the day. The exhausted rebels are pushed back. Other Confederate...
Sorry, hold on. That gap in the Union line... Oh, stop. That gap in the Union line comes into play on day 3. That's all I'll say.
Confederates renew efforts to capture Little Round Top, entering what comes to be called the Valley of Death. They, too, are thrown back. The fighting finally ceases on the south end of the battlefield. In what General Longstreet termed the best 3 hours fighting ever done by any troops on any battlefield. More than 14,000 men became casualties of war. And the battle is far from over. At dusk, General Ewell moves on the Union right. 2 of Jubal Early's brigades sweep toward Cemetery Hill, obscured by the gathering darkness. The Union line is thinly held by battle-weary 11th Corps soldiers. Louisianans and North Carolinians overwhelm them. Portions of East Cemetery Hill are captured. Meade's army will lose the battle if Cemetery Hill falls. But Union reinforcements surge onto the hill before Confederates can exploit their gains. Early's men are thrown back as General Edward Johnson's division moves to attack Culp's Hill. Most of the breastworks on Culp's Hill are empty, their brigades sent to reinforce Sickles. Only 1,300 Union soldiers under General George Sears Greene remain to face Johnson's attacking 4,500. Greene's men hold firm against numerous nighttime assaults, but some of Johnson's men gain a foothold in the abandoned trenches on the lower hill. By 10 p.m., the day's fighting comes to a halt. The past 2 days have borne 37,000 casualties. By now, Gettysburg is the bloodiest battle of the war, and another day of horrible combat is yet to come. General Lee sees an opportunity, hoping to take Culp's Hill in a morning assault. He adds 3 brigades to bolster his left, but General Meade has ordered the return of the 5 brigades that left Culp's Hill to aid Sickles. Bolstered by a stream of reinforcements, Lee is badly outnumbered. For 7 hours, the battle rages. Initial Union attacks are stymied, including an ill-fated move near Spangler's Spring. But by 11 a.m., the Union numbers weigh too heavily, and the Confederates are forced out of their captured entrenchments. Lee now orders a massive assault upon the Union center. General George Pickett leads the only fresh division in Lee's army, and he forms the core of the attack under Longstreet's command.
When I said that gap in the center plays a pivotal role in day 3, Lee kind of saw that. From my understanding, Lee saw it, but he wasn't able to coordinate an attack. As I said, that was a mile distance. He wasn't able to get enough troops to coordinate an attack. So he kind of thought, we're going to attack here, an attack there. We're going to get them to widen out or to thin out, to reinforce, create that gap again, unbeknownst to them. Pickett's charge is going to come right up through. It's going to cut the Union in half. It's going to be led by General George Pickett, and it wasn't just Pickett. It was someone in Pickett's charge, and I don't remember who the other person was now. General Longstreet, under Lee, was saying, no. Longstreet, I think he saw the Union opening. Maybe he thought it was a trap, or maybe he saw it as what it was. It was an opening. We had a chance. We didn't coordinate. They closed it. So when Lee orders this, Longstreet's like, that's not gonna happen again. It's just not. But Lee was confident that we're gonna force him to do it by attacking here and attacking there, so that when they have to pull troops out, we can hit him in the center. And Longstreet was just like, I don't think it's going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. And so when he had to give the order to General Pickett, he couldn't. The words just wouldn't come out of his mouth, because he saw it as this is not going to work. I won't say any more. We'll see what happens.
Meade is ready, having anticipated such a move the night before. He is the first Union Army commander to decisively outguess Robert E. Lee.
George Meade, by the way, very underrated for military things. He's just very underrated. This is day 3.
At 1 p.m., Lee bombards the Union defenses, hoping to soften them up. Meade responds, and together, they create the largest artillery barrage in the Western Hemisphere. Ultimately, Lee's bombardment fails. Nevertheless, Pickett's attack commences at 3 p.m. 12,000 men emerge from Seminary Ridge. They must cross 1 mile of open ground.
I've walked in that area, in that 1 mile area. And to stand down here and look up, when you visit, if you visit, up around the Union Fishhook, there's an area, I'll say like right around here, where there's a fence and there's trees, and it's the furthest that Pickett's charge made it. And it probably isn't here. I'll say it's like right in here. But yeah, when you see that, I won't say anymore.
Union artillery opens at long range and tears gaps in the Confederate line. Meade orders more than 20,000 reinforcements to converge upon the center. Ohio, New York, and Vermont troops position themselves upon the flank of the Confederate advance. The Confederates are moving into a great pincer of Yankees. The Southerners enter rifle range. And fewer than half cross the Emmitsburg Road.
Fewer than half cross the Gettysburg Road, but they're firing their shot, and the cannons are firing that grape shot, so it's like cannon shotgun. And they said that, I mean, it was ripping through people, ripping through bodies, so much so that they said over the entire battlefield hung a red mist that if you ran through it, you started like this and you ran through it, you had just blood pouring down your face like it was sweat. It was brutal.
But with second and third line troops coming up, some managed to breach the Union position. A ferocious melee ensues. As tens of thousands of Union reinforcements arrive, the Confederate attackers dwindle. Lee's men don't stand a chance.
And Pickett pretty much lost every single one of his guys. Not every single one, but virtually his unit was wiped out. And if you ever get to see the movie Gettysburg, which I highly recommend, there's a part in there where is it Martin Sheen plays Robert E. Lee, and he's looking down at the guy playing George Pickett. He's in well, he was in that one horror. He's been in a couple Avatar movies, but he was in the horror movie like Keep Quiet or whatever it was, where he's the blind guy. I don't remember his name, and I did a terrible job of analogizing the guy. But that guy plays George Pickett, and there's this part where Robert E. Lee tells him, okay, look, regather your unit for another charge. And he's just like, what unit? My unit's gone. And he's like crying because he realizes, I think he realizes why Longstreet could not verbalize the order of charge. He was just like, and Pickett's like, so are we going? And Longstreet was just like, because he couldn't say the words, but he knew he had to give the order, but he couldn't say the words. And George Pickett, not knowing what Longstreet had figured out, you know, it's sad.
Those who cross the stone wall are either killed or captured. Lee's great moment of opportunity has become his greatest defeat by far. scarcely half of the men who made the attack returned to Seminary Ridge.
Had to give myself some water, sorry.
There's an invisible thread in your...
Yeah, it's just a massive loss of life. Whether it, Confederate or Union, they're American at the end. And massive loss of life, just so many. I mean, they're all young. That's what's sad about it.
As events unfold in the center, cavalrymen are active on the flanks. In hopes of threatening the Union rear, Confederate General Jeb Stuart's horsemen try to swing around the Union Army. They are stopped east of Gettysburg by Union cavalrymen under General David M. Gregg. General George Custer leads a charge of Michiganders that highlights the repulse. South of Gettysburg, Union cavalry hit the Confederate flank and rear with no success. Charge and countercharge produced no real result for either side. The Battle of Gettysburg is over. Lee has lost, but remains on the field. He hopes to repulse a counterattack on July 4th to even the odds. Meade does not take the bait. That night, Lee pulls back through the mountains to the Potomac River. His lumbering wagon train of wounded is miles long. Meade plans to attack, but Lee's river position is too strong. The Army of Northern Virginia, beaten as it had never been beaten before, moves back into Virginia. And the war will go on another 21 months.
Lincoln was so upset with Meade that he didn't go in for the attack, go in for the kill, and finish this war. But there's so much that Lincoln and Washington didn't know that Meade knew in Gettysburg. And so Meade didn't fall for that bait. But he also, after 3 days of fighting, he didn't want to put his men in any more of a position. And I think that's understandable. And Lincoln wasn't happy with Meade for that. But I think in the end, I hope in the end, I should say, that he kind of understood why Meade didn't do it. But Lincoln just, he just wanted to end the war. And I think we can all understand that. Why?
In the battle's wake, Gettysburg is a place of horror. Wounded soldiers outnumber citizens by more than 12 to 1. Every home, church, and farm becomes a hospital. Most of the dead are buried near where they fell. Some are tossed into rocky chasms. Others lay exposed to the elements. Local citizens thought that Union soldiers should be buried in some organized fashion on the battlefield they had won. Thus, the first national cemetery on a battlefield was born. 3,512 Union soldiers are moved from their battlefield graves to the new Soldiers' National Cemetery. As the work progresses, organizers hold a dedication ceremony on November 19, 1863. 15,000 people attend. Edward Everett is the main speaker. President Abraham Lincoln delivers a few appropriate remarks. The Gettysburg Address. In 2 minutes, Lincoln covers the history of the Republic, the raging war, the need to continue the fight, and lays out a vision for the future. It stands among the greatest speeches in American history.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war.
His words give increased purpose to the loss of life in evidence.
So, yeah. This is kind of the Devil's Den area. I actually parked like right there. And then I believe this is a little round top. I could be looking at it just from the view of it. I could be off. I'm sure I might be. I'm trying to get my... Maybe it was over here. I want to say it was up here. Anyways.
A sacrifice that would be necessary in ever greater numbers, in hundreds of hollowed places yet unnamed.
Yep. So I parked over there, and then over there is Little Round Top, and I kind of walked all along this. There were some people sitting on a rock, so I didn't really want to bother them. They were talking. It was very deep. Why are you breaking up with me? But I love you. It's not you, it's me. That's what I heard. And I just wanted to say, hey, can you go do that somewhere else? I want to look at pictures. I want to take pictures of places where people died. Can you take this sad conversation somewhere else? I didn't say that.
With the hope that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
So I hope I didn't extend this too awful long where you're like, hey, I got an idea, shut up. If I did, I apologize. Oh, yes. So, we're going to end the video, right? Normally, yes. But I got some treats for you. This is Major General George E. Pickett's grave in Richmond, Virginia, Hollywood Cemetery. There are words there, but I'm not going to enhance it to read it because it just, he loved his family and blah, 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 blah. This is also in Hollywood Cemetery. It's a 90-foot tall rock pyramid dedicated to the Confederate soldiers. Whether you agree with the Confederacy or not, it's a pretty cool little thing. And then the man behind the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, Jeff Davis, as some have known him. He's buried here or here, and then his wife is buried here or here. So that narrows it down for you. And then there's the rocks thing. This is completely unrelated. This little girl died during the Civil War. I've heard two stories. One, she died during the Civil War. Her body wasn't claimed, and somebody made this giant cast iron thing to watch over her grave to protect her soul in the afterlife, since no one was there to protect her during her life. Very sad, very cool, very sad. The other story is that she died during the Civil War, and medals were confiscated from homes. So the family took their medal and made this cast iron dog and put it on the grave, because graves were considered like sanctuaries. You did not take anything from that. And over, you can see that little black thing right there. They got cannons like all over the place, and that is not a cannon. So I just lied to you. But anyways, there were cannons over there. So, there are also two presidents buried here. Number 5, James Monroe, and number number 10 well, it's loading. And number 10 John Tyler, the first vice president to become president when number 9, William Henry Harrison, died after 33, 36, 32, 30-ish days in office. William Henry Harrison gained fame during the War of 1812. He led the attack against Tecumseh, and his unit killed Tecumseh. So, but anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I hope this is interesting for you as it was for me. It's just something that, American history always interests me. So, be cool if it interests you. But until next time, have a good day, have a good night.